Okay, so hello everyone. So today we want to go and start learning about one more grammar point that talk about relative clauses, or the other one we can call it like adjective clauses, right? So without further delay, we just go through the content. So here we are to discuss during this session. The first one we just focus on classification of relative clause, defining clauses and non-defining clauses, defining clauses and non-defining clauses in detail. They want to compare the similarity and differences, relative clauses and preposition. Okay, we will go and discuss it at the following. So in this part, again, you want to see the example and we will check how much do you understand about defining relative clauses there. For example, like the woman who lives next door is a doctor. What's that? So, who lives next door? What is it about? It is defining relative clause or defining clause for this part. The second one, she works for a company that makes stuff. So from where to where they we call like defining clauses in here, or defining clause. So that makes stoves. It is defining clause. The question is that how can you recognize whether it is defining clause or non-defining clause? You will see it in the following. So defining clauses are relative clauses where the information is essential. We can say it is really important to make the whole sentence or clauses are meaningful, the needed information. They tell us which person or thing or what kind of person or things the speaker means. It will tell us more about which particular thing or people or person that the speaker refer to, right? Examples. The woman who lives next door. Tell us which woman. All right. Link to the previous example at the beginning. A company that makes stoves. Tell us which kind of company. All right. Tell us which kind of company there. Okay. If without that clauses, the clause, the word before this is nothing. Okay. So the next one. Okay. Note that we do not use comma with these clauses. Example, we know a lot of people who live in London. So in this part again, there is no comma here, all right? So we do not use comma with defining relative clauses. We can use that instead of who or which. Okay, one more particular thing. We can use that instead of who or which. The man who or that answered the phone told me you were away. So from where to where do we call like defining relative clause in here? It should be start from who or that answer the phone. All right. The bus which or that goes to the market runs every half an hour. So from where to where, that is the defining relative clause in here. So from where? It should be from which goes to the market. There is defining relative clause in here. All right. So in defining relative clause, you can use that as well. Okay. Next. Okay, we can leave out that, who, which, when it is the object of the sentence or object of the whole clause is in here, right? Example, we went to the park, which or that she recommended. So the word in bracket can be alternative to leave out or delete from the sentence. Okay, so here it can be deleted. All right, we can say like we went to the park, she recommended. All right, this one. The second example, he is the person who or that I told you about. The same thing, who or that can be optional to leave it out. Or you can say, he is the person I told you about. All right? So in this case. Okay, next thing. We do not often use whom in this type of clauses. Right? So in defining relative clause, we do not often use whom in this case, right? Just short thing to remember. Next. Okay, we can move to non-defining relative clauses. You can see the example. A man who lives next door is a doctor. So from where to where that we call like non-defining clauses, a non-defining relative clauses in here. Who lives next door is the non-defining clause. The second example, she works for ABC company, which makes stoves. So from where to where is non-defining clause. Yes, which makes stoves. This is the non-defining clauses. It each other extra information to ABC company. Some people may know about the company, what is their business about, right? But this one is just the extra information to this one. We can move to the next one, non-defining clauses. So the definition of non-defining clauses are relative clauses where the information is additional and not essential. So sometimes it's not really important for the sentence as well. Without that thing, you still can understand or recognize which person or thing that it is talking about in here, right? The speaker means, all right? They do not tell us which person or thing the speaker meant. So that part is not really important for that part. It's the additional information. We already know which thing or person is meant. Yeah, we already know which things or person is meant. Already know, not important anymore, right? Okay, so those things. For example, a man who lives next door is a doctor. So, who lives next door is just the additional information. It's just the additional information to a man or about a man, right? It did not tell us who, all right? The next example. She works for ABC company, which makes stoves. So this part did not tell us much about ABC company in here. It's just the extra information about ABC company only. All right, short one. Please note that we use comma. All right, we use comma with these clauses. Example: John, who is very honest person, is my best friend. John, who is a very honest person, is my best friend. So you can see this one, which I use comma. So the non-defining relative clauses or relative clause are stay between the commas in here. You see, between the commas. Mean it is not important. So you can recognize it by comma, using comma. The second example, he is my best friend, who is a very honest person. So he is my best friend, who is a very honest person. So you see a comma in here. So he is my best friend is just enough. Who is a very honest person? It's just the extra information or additional information to my best friend here. Just clarify more, right? Okay, move to the next one. We cannot use that in non-defining clauses, or we cannot use that in non-defining relative clauses in here. So, for example, the teacher who teaches English very well is my daughter's. Sorry, is my sister. The teacher who teaches English very well is my sister. So from where to where is non-defining relative clause? You can see it. Yeah, from who until very well. And in this case, that cannot be used in here. All right. So that part. The second example. This table, which is made of wood, seems to be expensive. So from where to where is the non-defining clauses? Yeah, it should be from which until would. How about that? Is it can be used in here? No, it is not the optional in here. So pretty much this one we can say in non-defining relative clauses we cannot use that in that one, right? So please take note and be careful with this one. Next, we cannot leave out who or which in non-defining relative clause. We went to natural park, which she recommended. Okay, even though it is the object of the sentence, but which still cannot be leave out in here. All right. So be careful with this one. We can use whom when it is the object. She met Dara, whom or who is an alternative. We can use both of them. She got married later. Okay. She met Dara, whom or who she got married later. All right. Okay. To remind you with relative pronouns, in defining and non-defining pronouns with who or that, with in the defining relative clause and non-defining relative clause in here. So in subject, okay, we can say if that clause act as the subject of the whole sentence in here. Who, we can use who or that is okay, but thing we use that or which. All right. But object, okay, sometimes we can leave out who we can or that in here, we can leave it out or use that or nothing and that in here. Okay, so briefly, but in non-defining relative clause, we can say if it is subject, we use who, but cannot use that in here. Note that in non-defining relative clause. Thing we use which, not that as well, right? Object we can use who or whom for the person when we're talking about the person, and thing we use which. Still note that, and remember this one we cannot leave out, even though it is the object of the sentence. We still need it. That is different from defining. If it is the object of the clause of the sentence, okay, we can leave out who or that or which or something in here, right? Okay, so all the thing in here. Okay, please note that words in brackets are possible alternative to the words given, but are less common. Okay, so are less common there. Okay, whom is used only in formal English. All right, so whom you use in only formal English. Object relative clause do not normally need who or that. Okay, object in relative clause, but this part we can say object in defining, right? Defining relative clause in here. Okay, so briefly about this one. Okay, here's just something that I got it from J. Lopez English. Okay, that like who it is used to refer to people, which refer to animal, objects, or idea. Who's about possession, that about people, animal, or object. But that okay, we recently talked about. It can be used in defining relative clause, not non-defining, right? Where, places, okay, and when, about time. Okay, this part they can be used to join two sentences, all right? Like adverb build clause in here, something. Okay, but about RP here refer to relative pronoun, refer to a noun mentioned previously. So if noun you mentioned, who or which mean uh, refer to that person or thing that they mentioned at the beginning, right? Okay. Okay, so if you have some question, maybe you can comment or can ask later. Okay, we should move to. So in both type of relative clause, I should repeat. Okay, so defining clauses, you can see the example. That man is the person whose daughter get married to a very rich old man. So whose is the defining relative clause for this one? They went to the park where they can find quiet atmosphere to study. Okay, so this is about this one, and you can see there are examples of non-defining relative clause. My brothers, whose daughter married to a very rich man, a very old rich man, is very upset. You got it? Okay, so from here to here. And they went to that park where they can find quiet atmosphere to study. Okay, what do you find similarity there? Okay, so next one, I just show you briefly in here. So here the different, you can see the different thing. So in this one, okay, we can say define analytical. We do not use comma for with these clauses, no comma, right? We can use that instead of who or which. You can leave out that who or which when it is the object of the sentence. We do not often use whom in this type of clauses. Okay, so what is one? Okay, we use comma with these clauses. We cannot use that in non-defining clauses. You we cannot leave out who or which. Okay, we can use whom when it is the object of the sentence or the clause in here, right? So which I have four things that is different to be noted, right? Okay, we move to relative clauses and preposition. In relative clauses, a relative pronoun can be the object of a preposition. You can see the example here. He is the man about whom I talked last night. Okay, so about is preposition and whom is relative pronoun. So in this case, whom is the object of about. All right. This is the place at which I was born. The same thing. So at is preposition and which is a relative pronoun. So in this case, which is the object of at, preposition at. All right. In speech or in formal writing, we generally put the preposition at the end of the clause. Otherwise, it may sound very formal or awkward. So some case we can say some case we normally familiar with preposition at the end. All right, is it true? Okay, he is the man whose I talked about last night. All right, it sound something like a formal thing that we normally use it in here. He is my father whose I talked about last night. All right, he is my father who I talked about last night. All right, any question? So please comment if you have some question. Leave out your question in the comment, right? Next, we can put quantifiers such as all, each, some, several, many, or most before of whom or of which to give extra information about the whole or a part of particular group. For example, I have many friends Most of whom I really love. You see? Most of whom. All right? I really love. These are the books, some of which I have told you about. Some of which I have told you about. All right? Okay. If you have some question, please leave out your comment. Thank you. So thank you very much for your attention to follow and listen to this presentation. Okay, so I hope that you just have learned very well about the relative clause or adjective clauses in here. That we just have two different classification of relative clauses. The first one we call like defining clauses and non-defining clauses. So defining clauses, what is it? We can say like defining clauses are the clauses that are essential, okay, that really make the sentence to be meaningful or to be understood, to recognize about a person or thing that the speaker meant. How about non-defining relative clause? Non-defining relative clauses are the clauses that just additional and not really essential to the sentence. They just add the extra information to the person or thing or idea that the speaker meant about, right? Okay. So in short one, I hope that if you have some, just leave out your comment and ask me through the Google Classroom or even the comment in this YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching. Okay, thank you.